probably be an extended show here tonight on the velocity of now because of, well, some remarkable, incredible things have happened in the recent days. But also with this show, I think something really stunning and amazing is unfolding with the dream experiments. And we'll be some of you know about that, what happened. And we'll be talking about that in the second part of the show. My website is, and as well as the a special feature on Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, which is a far more profound novel today than it probably was even back then, and a very synchronistic and powerful novel. And I'll be talking about that and why it's been so a great impression and a great inspiration for me, but also why it's a very occult like and very supernatural novel. Beyond, it may even be a work of alchemy, an work of accidental alchemy. But we'll be talking about that later on in the show, as well as not only the reviewing of the dream premonitions that some of you had, but also the latest ones. We've also got some new hits on the QDA minor program, identified some new ones that came in the dream stories, which you've been sending it to me at an enormous rate, and that's okay. But please don't send them to my Facebook private message thing, because I can't get in there. It's so packed with messages right now, I can't get to read most of them. Go to Thomas Sheridan Arts at gmx.com and send your stories there, because then I can copy and paste them easy into a Word program, put them into special folders I've created, and then the data mining program can go to work. I also date them as well, so we can keep them current. So my website is thomassheridanarts.com. If you want to help me out, you can buy a book there. If you have no money, you can go to my YouTube channel, Thomas Sheridan Arts on YouTube, and just share this video and other videos like it. I know there's ads on them, but hey, I have to make a living too, and I don't have a donate button. I work for a living, and if you want to help me out, that's the way of doing it. I think it's a very small price to pay for this what I give you, because quite frankly, there's nobody out there as original as me. There's nobody out there covering as many topics as I am, and there's no one out there who just gives you something that's not the same old shite week after week. I'm not interested in that. I wouldn't do it if it was like that. And despite the fact I sound very casual and I'm having a laugh on the air and I'm very relaxed, I put a lot of work and research into these shows. I don't look at the latest truth news or the latest alternative news and then with a boner the size of a big red donate button, then go on the air and repeat exactly what I expect you to want me to say in order to validate your notions. I don't do that. What you get is an honest opinion. If you don't like it, then don't listen to the fucking show. If you do like it, thanks very much for joining in. But I'll never lie to you. I'll never bullshit you about anything. I won't ever say anything to get you to make me more popular. I'm not interested in fucking popularity. It means nothing to me. I'm glad that people are listening, and I'd rather have a small band of free-thinking, intelligent people rather than a massive army of people who just want to have their prejudices validated. And I've got a great following, and I'm delighted with that. And I'm delighted what you're listening to the show in enormous numbers, and I really, really appreciate that. And long may this continue on. I hope to be here for you. I hope you'll be here for me. But even if there's only a few people listening to this show, it wouldn't matter. What I'm interested in, or what I'm interested in talking about, is what keeps me here. And if you're enjoying the conversation, I'm really delighted and honored you're here with me. So it's been a strange time lately, but just when you think you see the mother of all psyops coming, something like this, the killing of this poor lion in Africa, really drives home to you how dopamine in the human brain is being weaponized against us in order to bring home agendas. Now, this is not a new thing. The last time this happened was when Robin Williams committed suicide. I remember when Robin Williams committed suicide, I got up that morning and there was a few people had mentioned it on Facebook. And the thing was very much like, oh, it's sad he died. I really like Mork and Mindy. Or that's sad. I really like the shows that he did. Some of the movies he made, which are very good. Normal things. But as the day began to move on, I began to notice that the sadness of the death of Robin Williams was being weaponized and was being mobilized. I could actually see on all the various social media networks, Twitter and especially YouTube and Facebook, an operation taking place where before we had any notion of why the man killed himself or anything, it was all about depression and suicide. There was just suddenly thousands and thousands of posts and hundreds of people appeared with depression kills and pictures of Robin Williams. It was weaponized, it was mobilized, and I had no doubt that it was either organized by the American Psychiatric Association to drum up more business for their depression things, or it was run by the pharmaceutical companies who make these SSRIs. But either way, it was turbocharged, and people who are, should we say, are prone to these kind of this kind of bullshit. I'm not saying that Robin Williams' death was bullshit, but you know what I'm talking about, this bullshit. There's these platitudes. They would recycle these memes, and these would recycle over and over again. By mid-afternoon Irish time, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter was in fits of absolute hysterical convulsions over the death of Robin Williams. However, it began with people I'd watched online who had a rational response. Oh, it's very sad. I'm shocked to hear this. By 3 o'clock in the afternoon, were screaming and howling all over social media. They had been coached. They had been their actual dopamine levels had been weaponized, and it had been coached all the way through the show and through the day until by the end of the day and went into the next couple of days afterwards, it was nothing more than a Robin Williams post-mortem hysterical mass psychosis. And it was all feeding into this idea that the man killed himself because of depression and all these things. If you have a friend with depression, get them help. If you think you're suffering from depression, get help. And it was absolutely organized, engineered, fed upon by the vampires in corporations and governments who want us all in these SSRIs so we can't fucking think straight for ourselves. And that was the last time I noticed it. And I hadn't been really one since that I was aware of until the slaughter of this lion. Now, before I get to the slaughter of this lion, Cecil, it's not Cecil, by the way, it's Cecil. That's how the name is pronounced. Before this lion was murdered, let me talk about something. These fellas who travel from America mostly, 90% of them from America, I know because I have a friend who used to work for the WWF in the old Rhodesia when he was younger. He was actually in the Rhodesia. The guy is, I think that's 60 or 60 odd now. He was in the old Rhodesian National Army, and he fought in the Civil War there. He was also involved in a military protection program during the Civil War to protect animals that was basically operated by the World Wildlife Fund. And he said to me that it was ridiculous that even at the height of the war, where Zimbabwe, as it was called, Rhodesia was back then, was an extremely dangerous place, they could not stop Americans flying over from killing animals. It was almost like they were addicted. Now let me explain to you why it's predominantly Americans who do this. One word: circumcision. American males are the only Western males outside the Middle East who are circumcised in high percentage numbers. Now this is, I'm not saying all American males do this, but they look down at their horrifically mutilated penis with all the important nerve endings that send an electrical sex charge into a woman when they're having sex, which is an important part of the actual sexual process, because it releases a charge into the woman, but also the woman charges into the man through the nerve endings on the foreskin. Because they're gone, these poor men, and they are unfortunate men. See, it's very easy to sit there and say they're all psychopaths and bloodlust savages, these Americans who go over there. But that's not that could you may find that many of them are quite normal guys, otherwise than doing these horrific things like shooting animals that in Africa. What they're doing is they're compensating for their mutilated penis, and the gun, the what you call the bow or whatever they use to shoot with, they're subconsciously killing the doctor who cut the top of their penis off. This has always been known that circumcision leads to violent behavior. That's why the Egyptians first practices it, because it's like it's like weaponized feminism. Because if you take sex away from people, the full completeness of sex, it makes them angry. And they discovered years ago, and then the Semitics did that, and that's what circumcision was for. Now, American men, because of the Kellogg Company, have been circumcised on a regular basis since about the early 1900s. And even though lots of Americans are wising up and not circumcising their males, it's still happening at an enormous percentage by any other country's standards. Now, if you look at the American thing, the obsession with guns, it began after that. You see, you did have, you had the Wild West stories in America, but not everyone wanted to have a gun. The Wild West stories were very popular, not only the United States, but all over the world. And like every other men in the world, they read Wild West stories. It wasn't until the Kellogg's Company and this weird notion of stopping young American boys from masturbating by cutting off their foreskin did the likes of all this idea of violence and sexuality come into it. So you have novels like Mickey Spillane, where he has sex with the chick, and then she double crosses him and he shoots her. Jimmy Cagney, all these gangster movies that started in the 30s, 20s, 30s, 40s, beyond, they all have they're double crossing dame, and he shoots her. That's his foreskin. That's his missing foreskin, and that was a compensatory thing. This is why murder rates, handgun rates, shotgun murder rates are off the scale in America compared to anywhere else. The issue begins with circumcision. Okay, so you have these. A lot of men most of them wouldn't even know this. Okay, and that's why you have things like the NRA. Things like the NRA and all these gun nuts in America, they're a monument, a living monument, a living murderous monument to the dangers of circumcision. So that's where it initially comes from. So it's very easy for people to sit there and go, oh, these Americans, they'll go hunting in Africa and killing these animals. They're all psychopaths. All of them, or they're all mindless killers. Yes, some are, but most of them are driven by a sexual dysfunctionality that caused them to want to compensate for a destroyed penis by killing an animal. So that's what it begins with. Okay. Now that will never be addressed ever. Firstly, now even with that, what they do they're going over there and killing these animals is fucking disgusting. Like most American men would never think of doing that. No, it just wouldn't cross them to do so. It's disgusting to them. Now, the way these parks operate, where there's even in America, go to Texas, and they have animal feeders that bring poor little gazelles and other small animals out, and some guy shoots it dead. And that they feel like a big man. The reason why they need to feel like a big man is because they're a small man downstairs. You understand? Now, when they get to Africa and kill these animals, it's what happened to that lion is horrible. Okay. However, the way they cut the skin off, they cut the head off. Now, the psyops began very quickly, okay? Now, but firstly, let's bring this into focus. Lions are vicious killers. They kill about 70 humans a year. Secondly, and they don't eat them, they kill them for fun. And they're poor African kids, a lot of them. Another thing that happens as well is that lions are, when they attack, they're not these noble creatures. They're lazy bastards who go after the young and the sick and the pregnant. It's not uncommon for a lion to attack a pregnant wildebeest or a pregnant zebra in the effort to miscarriage the unborted babe, the unborted infant, in order to eat that. That's not uncommon. This is your noble line for you. This is not the king of the jungle. This is a savage animal that's just as bad as any other. Now, does that mean we should hunt them up? Of course not. All these animals should be protected. But how many of you are having psychotic convulsions with your arm? Oh, Cecil! Oh my God! They killed the poor lion! Or having a steak for dinner tonight, or a chicken. You see what a fuckhead you are. You see how this weaponized dopamine is operating in your head. I can see you all switching off now. Oh, I hate Sheridan, he's an evil man. Well, fuck you and go away. Because if you can't handle the truth, then there's something wrong with you, and you have no right to be calling yourself a truth seeker. Let me explain something to you. I drove today from here to Ballina, from Ballina to Sligo, and Sligo back in a loop. I saw on the roads 4 dead cats. 2 black ones and 2 tabbies, with their heads and their legs and everything mashed into the ground. All I could think about was my 3 cats at home. And how these poor cats that get hit by the car don't have families, no one to take care of them, no one to love them. Now, and then a lion in Africa, where are the people? Why aren't you adopting these cats that are on the streets? Instead of pouring your psychosis that's been invented by the media into a lion on thousands of miles away that you never heard of until yesterday. Another one. This planet. Now, all you New Agers, your yonnies are going to fucking explode now. But let me explain something to you, okay? Take the fucking joint out, the bong out of your face for a moment, okay? This planet is a machine of absolute carnage. It's not, you may sit there going, circle of life, and all this crap. 56 billion, not million, billion. 56 billion animals are killed by agriculture for food every single year on this planet. 56 billion. Staggering. And I'm a meat eater. I try to always get organic when I can, but I'm a meat eater and free range. Lucky I live in where I can get it. But just think about that. It really brings Cecil into your convulsions over that into focus. Another one. All these celebrities coming forward. What about the thousands of animals skinned alive by the fashion industry? What about the thousands of animals who have shampoo rubbed into their eyes by the cosmetic industries? And then we have to listen to these fucking wagon supermodels all going on about Cecil. So the psyop begins, right? You're all, Cecil. If your own kid was run over by a car, you'd go, your child has just been hit by a car. Oh, really? But Cecil. That's what you're like. That's what so many of you are like. That's how easy. And then you go on the internet and you go, oh, everyone's a sheeple because they watch the Oscars. You're a fucking sheeple if you fell for that. Oh, but I have empathy. You only have that empathy because the mass media weaponized the dopamine in your head for that one line. And then you say to yourself, well, where are the psyops, Thomas? Hey, David had a lion on the cover of his book. David, the reptiles. Where's the psyop? Shall we begin with the psyops? Psyop number 1. Why is this motherfucker dentist any more evil than the royal families of Europe and the aristocrats of Europe who've been killing these animals in an industrial number right up to today? Oh, you've forgotten about them, haven't you? You've forgotten about the pictures of all the royals with their dead animals next to them. Their mountains of dead animals. King Carlos of Spain, there's pictures of him all over the place, of fucking elephants dead all around him. You've forgotten about him, haven't you? You've forgotten about them. You've forgotten about the royals who killed the sport of kings, where they love nothing more than seeing foxes ripped to bits. And they abort their young as they're being ripped alive. Oh, they love nothing better than that. And they blood their children in the aborted fetuses of foxes. It's noble tradition. You forgot about them, haven't you? Oh, you have. So what do you want now? We want to protect the animals. We want to protect the animals. So it can't happen again. Well, who's in charge of that? The World Wildlife Fund. And who's running the World Wildlife Fund? The Prussian monarchs in London. Now we have this notion flying up all over the place that real men don't kill animals, and that piece of shit Arnold Schwarzenegger shows up tonight on Facebook in front of a stop sign with his hand in front of him saying, "Stop killing lions! Stop killing lions!" And then he writes underneath it, and in comes the psyop. Real men join the military instead. Psyop number 2. Psyop number 3. We were able to track down the dickhead dentist because a GPS chip was inside the lion. We could have got our Maddie, Madeleine McCann, if she had a chip in her. The GPS industry got the greatest promotion just now. They're sitting there rubbing their hands on all these GPS, these chip companies got these chip companies, Very Chip and all them. Yeah, couldn't pay for that. There's another one for you. Another one is they're going to, well, let's talk about, the animal's name was Cecil, right? That part of the world is called Zimbabwe. Before that, it was called Rhodesia. Now, Rhodesia wasn't just when it was founded by Cecil Rhodes. Imagine naming a huge chunk of Africa after yourself. That's what this piece of shit. Now, remember, Hillary Clinton will jump in now. She's a Rhodes scholar and talk about how horrible it is. But it's okay to kill Libyans for oil and stuff like that. Now, Cecil Rhodes, it wasn't only Rhodesia or present-day Zimbabwe, which is a piece of shit country. It was the worst example of socialism you could ever imagine. But it was also Tanzania. In fact, there was the whole Kimberley range. The whole Kimberley, I know most of you have never heard of it, is a mineral-rich diamond range right across the areas where these happen. And many of these areas where the wildlife are protected, the only reason the WWF has protected them is because Prince Philip has told his City of London friends that their diamond fields won't have any access to humans, and the likes of De Beers and all those scumbags in that area will have exclusive access to the diamonds. Those areas are so diamond rich that they're literally on the ground, and that's why they have been declared wildlife zones and humans have been shipped out. And then you may ask yourself, but isn't that a good thing for the animals? Isn't that a good thing for the animals? Well, let me explain to you a news story from Zimbabwe in 2008, and all of you who are suddenly, you know, you're all hyped up now for Cecil. Listen carefully to what I'm going to read, and then let's see if we can alter your dopamine levels that the mass media has controlled in you while you call everyone else sheeple. Soldiers tell of Zimbabwe Diamond Field Massacre. This is from the BBC. Soldiers and paramilitary police from Zimbabwe have broken ranks to speak out about a 2008 operation in which civilians working in the Maranga diamond field were massacred. Some of those involved in the attacks have told BBC Panorama that the civilians were encircled, trapped, and fired upon with automatic weapons. In the end, there was nowhere out. Civilians who were present during the attacks in Cecil the Lionland were gunned down as they attempted to flee in panic. Its purpose was to clear the diamond fields of freelance diamond diggers. That means poor Zimbabwe African people who have been failed by that Mugabe and his shithead government and all were trying to find these diamonds in order to try and get, have a decent life, prospectors, right? But in lands where the World Wildlife Funds puts more emphasis on insects than it does on people, 1,500 soldiers took part in the operation. It was known as Operation Hadakozoi, which translates as "You shall never return." Now, the Zimbabwe government is who did this, right? Some Orang diamonds are now starting to appear in the world market because of this Kimberley process, the company that runs them. And these Kimberley diamonds, remember the Kimberley range, mineral rich. They're now called blood diamonds on the international market, and they're getting a higher price because they were probably shot out the hand of an African person holding them. The massacre investigated by the BBC took place in late October 2008 when Zimbabwe was in the depths of an economic crisis. That's because they had this fucked up socialism that they had there. Thousands of civilians had flocked to the diamond fields in the hope of finding gems. Among the victims were women and children, some working in a makeshift market which had sprung up to sell food and clothes to the miners. Unknown to them, several weeks before the killings began, the military had started laying a circular trap around the civilians. Listen to this, you are so upset about the lion. Listen to this. They laid strings of mines and ultimately stationed armoured vehicles, mounted soldiers, and a full infantry battalion in a circular pattern around the area. In the end, there was no way out. Multiple and civilian witnesses said soldiers fired down on them from helicopters. 20 to 30 people would die every day. I'm just talking about the ones I saw with my own eyes, said one officer. Several people told of seeing groups of bodies left in shallow graves in the diamond fields or loosely covered with leaves. Many civilians were severely mauled by trained dog units. Two told the BBC the dogs bit them on the testicles while soldiers and police looked on. Vumbai, a 27-year-old mother of two, was dragged into the bush and raped by a soldier. Then he raped me. I could hear them laughing and screaming. The BBC has confirmed that one mass grave has been found containing between 69 and 105 bodies. A man who witnessed the burial said the body parts were packed in black plastic bags and you could actually see the bones piercing through the plastic. Blood was dripping everywhere. It was disgusting. But you're all upset about Cecil the lion. Now, I'm not going to read the rest of this. You can look this up for yourself. But doesn't that just put it into perspective? Why are you not having hysterical convulsions over that? Why don't you give a shit about these people? Why isn't all the top newspapers reporting that this happened in Sicily? Why isn't Jimmy Kimmel crying his eyes out on TV over these thousands of Zimbabweans who were slaughtered, who were trying to get diamonds in order to feed themselves to escape starvation? Why? And then Robert Mugabe gets invited to the royal wedding afterwards. The, I was watching Facebook today, and I'm just holding my head in my hands at all these people I thought were awake, and they fall for it over and over and over and over again. It never stops, because you cannot. You still have read my book, The Amble of the Psyche, and you'll see there's a way how to avoid this. You put the brakes on when they start firing you up. Your dopamine, your adrenaline, your norepinephrine, and all your neurobrain chemicals are an enormous commercial asset that the media fire up in order to get money off you. But there's nothing for this. But you're all, oh, Caesar, oh, Lord. And then, it was ridiculous. I heard people today saying they should have a Live Aid style concert for him. I mean, what next? The bleeding state funeral? Like the one for Diana? With Elton John. And it seemed to me like I lived my life like a gerbil in my ass, never knowing which way to turn to till my wind was past. Is that what you want? A state funeral? Yeah, and just like Diana, for a lion, a big concert at Wembley Stadium. Get Bob Geldof to organise it. Lion Aid. Just give me the fucking money. Ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. Yes, it's disgusting. Yes, it's horrible. Yes, it makes me ill that people have to do this, but I understand where it comes from. It comes from circumcision and insanity. It's fed by the media, and it serves all kinds of agendas. In this case, the pro-microchipping agenda. Arnold Schwarzenegger, that piece of fucking crap, telling people that a real man should join the military and kill humans instead. And then real horrors that take place in Zimbabwe, like the murder of these people in the Kimberley Diamond Ranges, is completely ignored. You don't get upset about that. And it's also part of the over there psyop. Those of you who you see me talking about my work into indigenous religion. We don't need Middle Eastern religion. Our spirituality, we have our own. They always have you looking elsewhere, over there. I look over there. Never in your own neighborhood, but always on the other side of the world when it suits them. Anyway, that's enough about that. Just don't fall for that shit ever again. It's depressing to watch. It's this weaponized dopamine hysteria mobilized by policy strategists, think tanks, and social engineers to whip you up for their own aims in the end.